To crown these frets, I'm going to go ahead and loosen the strings and move them off to the side. And then I'm going to use the MusicNomad S file to crown the areas that I leveled. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen the strings, get those out of the way. If you're using a cradle cube, you can pull your strings out of the way and just hook them down under the edges of the cradle cube. That'll keep that out of the way for you so you can get to the frets. This guitar has a locking nut behind the actual nut, which is kind of a pain because I don't want to take the strings all the way out, but it does make them a little harder to get around the fretboard. But as long as I loosen them enough, they move out of the way okay. If you had a Floyd Rose nut, you would want to take off the blocking blocks, just put them on the bench and you can get your strings out of the way. The only things that are problematic for moving the strings out of the way are either a locking nut that's separate from the actual nut like this, or if you have a Floyd Rose that has the lock bar behind it, because that keeps the 4 inner strings between 2 screws, so it's kind of hard to get them over out of the way. You might have to remove the nut, you might have to pull that lock bar if you can't get things out of the way enough, but it shouldn't be too tough. Now with my strings out of the way, I'm going to measure my fret width so I can determine which side of the S file to use. Now to do that, I'm going to use on my fret gauge, I'm going to use the very end of the handle, has a little notch in it. And if that notch fits down over the fret and the gauge touches the fingerboard, I'll know that I have a narrow to medium size fret. If I put the gauge down over the fret and it sits on the fret and it doesn't touch the fingerboard, then I'm going to know I have a wide fret. So that is how I will determine what side of the file to use. So when I put this down over the fret, it does not touch the fingerboard. There's quite a gap between the bottom of the gauge and the fingerboard. So I know that I have a wide fret. So I'm going to take my S file and I'm going to look and see wide. So I'm going to use the wide side. So I've used a bunch of different crowning files over my career. I mean, every one that you can imagine, from triangle files to other diamond coated files. And the S file is by far the best file that I've used. It has a lot of really neat innovations. It's very ergonomic. It has an offset design so that you can hold the file with your hand back at the back of the file and utilize the entire cutting surface of the working edge. It has a safe zone in the middle, which is really revolutionary. That has the effect of stopping the cutting as soon as the file touches the top of the fret. And that's one of the biggest challenges to learning how to do a fret level and crown, is knowing how to crown the frets without lowering the tops. The top of the fret, the height is critical. So with the safe zone, you're automatically stopped when you reach that point. So it makes it really easy to learn and it makes it pretty foolproof. The nose of the file is curved, so you can hit small spots, and it has a little line showing where the apex of the curve is, so you know exactly what part of the file you're using. So, really, really cool file. The way that you use it is it has a channel. It's a concave channel, and that's the shape the fret is going to be when you're done filing. So you'll take your S file and you'll put it down on the fret, and so I have my wide side. Put it down on the fret, and then I'm going to just file back and forth. And I can hear it's cutting. I can see metal dust falling off. And I'm going to do that until I feel the file stop cutting and start skating on the fret top. Now I can already feel that happening over here on the bass side, and I didn't level anything on the bass side, so it was already pretty crowned. So I'm going to focus up here on the treble side. I can hear it's skating on the bass side. In order to file the different parts of the fret, you need to raise and lower your hand to change the arc of the file as it goes across. So if I set the file flat on the fretboard and I file back and forth, I'm going to be filing in the middle of the fret. If I raise up my hand a little bit, now I'm filing on the treble side of the fret. If I drop my hand a little bit, now I'm filing on the bass side. So you're going to need to sort of make an arc going across the fret in order to get all the parts of the fret. So I can feel that I've pretty much done all the work I need to do through the middle, but the end is still a little bit cutting. So now I felt that safe zone. Just make doubly sure. Safe zone's hitting all the way across the fret, so I know I'm done filing on that one. I'm going to move up to my 5th fret. Same thing. Now, just so you all know, these frets are a little bit flat on their tops. So even on the part that I didn't level, it's recrowning the fret. So I'm just going to go ahead and go with it and just recrown the whole fret. If you have frets that are not worn, they're perfectly crowned, but they're just a little out of level, and you do a level, you'll find that the safe zone hits the top of the fret pretty much immediately in the area that you didn't level. So these frets being a little bit flat, I'm getting a little bit of cut on the side that I didn't level, but that's okay. It's just crowning it out properly. All right, that feels good on that. I think I've hit everything I need to there. You can hear that's not cutting, which is making a skating sound. And so now I'll go up to my my 17th fret. To the very end of it. And if you're new to doing it, you can check your progress by looking, and you can see where you're filing, because the flat spot on the top of the fret will get progressively narrower. So if you're a little unsure about where you're cutting, even though the safe zone will stop you, it's not a bad idea to have some idea about how you're handling the tool. So a little visual check here and there isn't a bad move. All right, just about got that all crowned out. Okay, so now the safe zone skating on that one as well.
For more videos on how to perform guitar setups or care for your frets, subscribe to our channel and visit musicnomadcare.com for all our products and how-to videos.